Hello everyone, welcome to this week's edition of the Weekly Sting. I'm your host, Joe Hutzler, inside Turner Gymnasium as the men's basketball JV team gets ready for their contest here this afternoon. Before we get too much further, I want to remind you about our social media accounts. Of course, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, we're all over the place, and it's the best way for you to find out instantly what's going on with Lynchburg sports, and you can find that information at lynchburgsports.com. Let's go ahead and get started with our first guest, Miss Olivia DeFrancesco of women's basketball, joining us. First of all, thanks for coming on the show, Olivia.
Thanks for having me.
I know you guys have a lot going on right now with women's basketball, game against Highlands, then traveling to North Carolina this coming weekend. But I want to go back to your game against Shenandoah earlier this week. First ODAC game, first ODAC win in that game. But I think one of the interesting facts is that you're able to get the win on the road, a long distance traveled there and back. I don't know if people really understand how important that is. When you guys look at it, obviously a win is a win. It's a good thing, but do you get extra satisfaction because you're able to travel that far, get off the bus, and take care of business?
Definitely. It takes a lot of extra focus. Coming into a gym where it's loud, it's a small gym, their band was there being obnoxious. There were a lot of things going on, and it takes a lot of extra focus and mental toughness to stay in the game and focus on what we're doing.
Now, you guys in that game had a tough second quarter. We've talked about that as well, but I want to know from your perspective, especially at a point guard position now where you're expected to lead even more than you did a year ago, do you see anything that's kind of a trend as to why you guys have struggled in that second period, but then go into halftime and come out strong in the third?
I think sometimes we get too relaxed. Like if we get a lead, we'll come back and just be like, okay, we're here. But instead of taking that extra push and getting ahead even more, and that's something that we have to be consistent on each quarter of the game.
This year's team looks different than last year's team in a lot of respects, but as far as the season so far, it's been kind of similar, having some struggles in the beginning, but now having a stretch here where you should win the most of your games moving forward. Do you see anything in practice that tells you, okay, we've gotten past these small things that keep holding us back, and now we're moving ahead and making bigger strides? Do you see this next stretch of games through the end of the calendar year as a very big point of a turning point, if you will, for you guys to say, okay, we're actually a legit contender in the ODAC?
Absolutely. We definitely see our potential. We see a lot of improvement with our energy because that's something we've been harping on the whole time, but we also know at the same time it's something to keep working on. And it's just staying focused to the plan and performing.
Trust in the game plan. Yeah. Coach Patty Smith will get you guys there. There's no doubt about that. Last thing I want to mention, we already talked about you playing the point guard position, which is different than what you did a year ago. What extra stress has that provided for you? What extra things do you have to think about now as opposed to last year maybe you had to worry about coming off a screen and hitting a shot? Now you're coming up the floor and calling a play.
It's been difficult, but like the first 2 weeks were rough, but I think I'm adjusting well, and I feel a lot more confident in the position. And it's definitely been tough, like figuring out what play to call, like knowing what defense we're in at the same time, and just like making sure everybody's on the same page. And it sometimes makes it hard to find that balance where, like, should I be passing, should I be scoring here, like right. That kind of thing.
Well, if you get stuck, you can always do what Charmaine did the other night and just holler out, hey, to Coach, and she'll give you the play call from the sideline. Let's move on to a really cool thing you did this past summer and traveling to Italy. Now, I've been there as well, and it's a beautiful area, great people. The language barrier is obviously tough. But when you look back at it, name me one thing that you take away from that experience that you really enjoyed, that you got a chance to experience, and then maybe one thing that was kind of tough getting used to going to a new country.
I really loved how independent I kind of was there. I went in knowing nobody, so
you didn't have much of a choice then.
Yeah, it forced me to step out of my comfort zone and create new relationships and learn more things. And right. It was definitely a tough adjustment at the same time, but that's what I loved about it, because I was doing something I'd never done before, and it helped me grow as a person and all around.
How long were you there?
4 weeks.
4 weeks, a whole month. And I guess I should ask, was it just vacation or was there another purpose to it?
There was another purpose. I was taking courses.
Okay.
I took 2 courses over there. I took a literature course and wine, kind of like elective kind of
Nice.
thing for fun.
It's a nice elective to take. I would take that one as well, for sure. Well, we're certainly glad that you had a good time, and I guess, would that be some place that you would go back to at some point in your
Absolutely.
life?
It was beautiful there. Like, I would love to go back.
Now, one thing that you also like to enjoy that involves geography is something called geocaching, which most people maybe not hear that every day in their workings, around the office and stuff. Can you explain for us really quickly what geocaching is?
It's an app on your phone. You download it, and it kind of sends you points on where, like, they're little, I like to call them treasure boxes.
Oh, okay.
So you can go out and, like, hunt treasure, kind of.
Well, that's cool. Who doesn't want to hunt for treasure?
And the app will show you your location and where one is, and it'll point you in the direction where it is, and if it's like how difficult it is to find. So it could be easy, hard, medium, and yeah.
Just follow the app,
Yep.
and you'll find.
Yep.
She said she found $5 one time, so literally geocaching on that trip. Well, before we go, we do want to play a game. At her request, Olivia wants to play a game, so here's your questions. We're going to play Rapid Fire. It's a game that we've played before, and you want to go first? You want to ask me the questions?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll let
Okay.
Olivia ask the questions first.
All
I don't
right.
have a fancy timer or anything, so we're just going to go as quickly as possible, all right?
Okay.
Whenever you're ready, go ahead and start.
Okay. What's your favorite song to sing in the shower?
Oh, that's a really tough question. Pass, I'll come back to that.
What's your favorite fast food French fry?
Chick-fil-A.
It's a good one. Would you rather have legs for arms or arms for legs?
I would take legs for arms because I got big legs and small arms, so at least that would look tough up top.
Makes sense. All
And
right,
then
back to the first one.
I would say right now, probably False Alarm by The Weeknd
Okay.
off his new album. Check it
All
out, it's
right.
really good. All right, those were actually tough. Those were tough questions. Well, I'm hoping that these are even tougher. All right, here are the questions for Olivia. Number 1, who is your favorite cartoon character?
Tina Belcher.
Don't even know who that. Oh, Tina, yes, we do know. All of us know who Tina is. If you could play one other sport, what would it be?
Soccer.
Would you rather fight 100 duck-sized horses or 1 horse-sized duck?
1 horse-sized duck.
Any particular reason?
There's only one thing to worry about.
I like that a lot. Olivia, thank you so much for playing along and coming on the show. Good
Thank
luck
you.
the rest of the season here at Lynchburg College. We'll be right back with Jay Allen of men's basketball.
It's on us, every Hornet, to stand up for one cause, to stand up against sexual assault.
To have the knowledge necessary to identify when sexual assault may occur.
To show integrity when confronted with a domestic violence conflict.
Where consent has not or cannot be given.
To create a community where sexual assault is unacceptable.
To provide service to survivors who need our support.
To embrace diversity and to provide a safe atmosphere for all Hornets.
Regardless of race, sexual orientation, gender, or ability.
To engage others on the importance of sexual assault awareness.
To value the tradition of standing up for others when they reach out.
To be consistent with our message, never wavering what is unacceptable.
It's on us to stand up to sexual assault at Lynchburg College. We are one nation, and it's on us.
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 It's on us. Zaxby's food has always brought people together, catering to the big moments. little wins, the long talks, and the quick getaways. Because food this inviting is bound to add a lot of flavor to your life.
Introducing the Zax Pack. Served with chicken fingers, sides, Texas toast, and iced tea. Pick one up for dinner or your next event. Friends, family, flavor. Zaxby's. Indescribably good.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Weekly Sting here inside Turner Gymnasium on the campus of Lynchburg College. I'm Joe Hutzler, and let's go ahead and get to our Hornet trivia question this week. We're talking about basketball, and we're talking about the last time Shenandoah men's basketball defeated Lynchburg was the 1995-96 season. Who led LC in scoring that season? We'll tell you more coming up in the next segment here on the Weekly Sting. Now, speaking of men's basketball, on a sour note, we're going to bring in Jay Allen, who had a very good game last night against Shenandoah. Jay, first of all, thanks for coming on the show.
No problem, Joe. Thanks for having me.
I know it's not the result you wanted last night to be coming on the show to be talking about, but we talked to Coach Scott after the game, and he was obviously disappointed. You're going to be disappointed after a loss, but is there this sense of, yeah, we didn't play well, we lost, that stinks. At least it's early and we can fix the things that we messed up on.
Yeah, like you said, the great thing about it is only December. You know, no one wins the ODAC in the first, couple months of the season. Right. You know, last year we started out kind of bad. I remember we had a loss to Bridgewater, and I remember Coach really getting on us, and we had a practice, and I feel like we responded from then. So, it's a good and bad. Of course you don't ever want to lose an ODAC game because they're very important, but if it's going to happen, at least it's early where we still can fix things and tighten things up. That's the best part about it. So it's something that we can definitely learn from and grow from. So that's what we're taking from it.
I'm glad you brought up the Bridgewater game from a year ago. You guys are actually through 6 games the same record overall that you were last year, 4-2. You lost that Bridgewater game, and it was the same sense of disappointment afterward within the gym and of course riding back. You mentioned the practice that you guys had after that. Was there at any point in time a moment among players that you kind of came together and said, this is unacceptable, and maybe that was a turning point for you guys moving forward a year ago?
Of course. Definitely Coach got on us. A lot of things we were doing in practice was more like competitive, pushing each other more so. A lot of joking that we do in practice that kind of stopped. But definitely our seniors like Alex Graves and Austin Arnold and Omar Kemp and Daniel Rowe, those guys really pushed us, They set us down and told us that we need to get it together. And, that's kind of how we got to do now,
Yeah.
I feel like everything that happens with us starts from the seniors, me, Lyndon, Zach, David. We have to set the example. We have to be the leaders of the team, whether we want to be or not. That's just how it goes. So, it's definitely something I'm looking forward to. These next 10 days that we're off, it's definitely going to be interesting, and I definitely think we're going to grow from it.
It's like you're reading my mind right now. You brought up the 10-day wait as well. Some people talk about how that's a good thing, and it could be a bad thing too, because competitively you may want to get right back into it after a disappointing loss last night. But for you guys, do you see it as a good thing to have time to get your stuff together before going on the road and playing some teams you're not familiar with?
Of course we want to play in the next couple of days, but I feel like if we did have a game in the next couple of days, we might fall back into our habits. Mm-hmm. So in practice we could pay more attention in the detail, watch more film, get up more shots. I think one of our biggest issues is we don't talk as much on defense. So those things would be magnified in the next 10 days. Mm-hmm. If we did have a game on Friday, I think we would probably get away from it a little bit. So, the 10 days, it's not that bad. It's going to be a hard 10 days, but it's going to be a 10 days that we need. And I think it's going to be a 10 days that's going to help us carry on throughout the rest of the season.
Oh, you're going to be pushed those 10 days for sure
as
well. So enjoy the day off that you have right now to the max. I do want to talk about your role. You mentioned, obviously, you're a senior this year. Last year came on the scene, burst onto the scene in the first game of the year. Some people didn't even know who you were until that first game against Johns Hopkins, and then throughout the rest of the year, coming off the bench, providing a spark. This year, you've been much more consistent in terms of your scoring and being on the floor more as well. Was that part of your off-season mindset that I want to work on these things so that I provide even more of an effort and even more so make my role become more of a leader both on the floor and off the floor?
Of course, when you lose great seniors like we did last year, going to something that has to be your mindset. I have to get better. I have to step my game up because you don't want to lag anywhere. So that's one of the things I looked at. Let me be a leader. Let me continue to be a spark off the bench, but also do more. You know, like I told you over the summer, one of the things I want to do is work on my jump shot. I mean, it's more consistent than it was last year, but I mean, at the end of the day, I still can improve. But as a senior, I just feel like my main role is to be a leader. You know, just like A.J. Hamilton was for me last year. He was a guy that was a senior that came off the bench, and I see how he approached every day. Every day, he did it for the betterment of the team. Right. You know, he didn't cry about it, he didn't pout about it. He did what made the team better, and that's how I look at my role. So if it does come off me being, you know, scoring more points or any of those things, I mean, as long as we're winning and it's the betterment of the team, I have no issue with that.
Well, and you made the most of the time on the court, too.
Yes,
that's what AJ did, and certainly that's what you're doing as well. So we all appreciate that as we watch you guys move forward. I want to get to the other side of Jay Allen. Of course, you're thinking about school for now, but then, of course, after May comes, we'll have to move on to something else. Have you had time to think about that a little bit, maybe before the season started, as far as where you might want to end up once you graduate?
I mean, of course, I love playing basketball. I would definitely love to play professionally. But if that doesn't happen, I definitely want to go back home and work in like our inner cities, work with kids. You know, I had a job over the summer, and I just really fell in love with it. It's my second year doing it, and it's just something I really love to do, just giving back, you know, making an impact on kids. I struggled coming up as a kid too, so I feel like I know what's going on in their lives, you know, so I definitely want to help them with that.
I like that. You've seen what life is like outside of the inner city, so you know how good it can be.
I want to be the example, you know. I did very poorly in school, in middle school and high school, and I had great people behind me, and I'm lucky and blessed to be in the spot that I am today, so I want to carry that on to help others do that. Well,
we're happy to have you along, and you can give back. And I think that's the biggest thing is a lot of us maybe get some help along the way, but we don't always give back to the people that may be suffering the same way we are. So we commend you for that for sure. You mentioned growing up. Well, you grew up with siblings like a lot of us have, and something that I wasn't necessarily aware of. We actually had someone just question it before the show started. You have a twin brother, which somehow some people don't know that about you. Is that like a secret, or is it just not put out there?
It's just not a secret. I mean, if you really know me, you know I have a twin brother. But I tell my teammates all the time, and they still don't believe that's my twin brother. They think he's a year or two older than me. But yeah, I have a twin brother. His name is Sherrod Allen. You know, I'm Gerard. He's Sherrod. Okay. He's older. I'm the youngest.
Okay.
So, you
Does
know,
he look like you? I mean,
no, we're fraternal.
Oh, fraternal.
Yeah,
okay, yeah. That's why. That's why.
If he was to walk in right now, you wouldn't think that was my brother. So.
That's funny. Well, real quickly before we go, I do want to just circle back to the team. What do you see from a senior standpoint the team has to get better at right now to get back to where you were a year ago?
Being more vocal, you know, holding everyone accountable, even ourselves. You know, I think we do that in practice, but I think we kind of get away from it as time goes on. Like I go back and say, these 10 days are great because sometimes you fall back into habits and you kind of need that punishment. You kind of need to work on those things more. So that's a big key for us. I mean, I'm taking full responsibility from last night in the standpoint of we have to push each other more. We have to hold everyone accountable. You know, everything that happens, good or bad, it starts from the seniors.
Sure does. Well, we thank you for giving us your time here as we head into further in the season, and I wish you the best of luck, man.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Of course. We come back, special guest, Daniel Rowe, the LHSN analyst, will be on the show. Stick around.
It's on us, every Hornet, to stand up for one cause, to stand up against sexual assault.
To have the knowledge necessary to identify when sexual assault may occur.
To show integrity when confronted with a domestic violence conflict.
Where consent has not or cannot be given.
To create a community where sexual assault is unacceptable.
To provide service to survivors who need our support.
To embrace diversity and to provide a safe atmosphere for all Hornets.
Regardless of race, sexual orientation, gender, or ability.
To engage others on the importance of sexual assault awareness.
To value the tradition of standing up for others when they reach out.
To be consistent with our message, never wavering what is unacceptable.
It's on us to stand up to sexual assault at Lynchburg College. We are one nation, and it's on us.
It's on us. It's on us.
It's on us.
It's on us.
It's on us! Zaxby's food has always brought people together. Catering to the big moments. The little wins. The long talks. And the quick getaways. Because food this inviting is bound to add a lot of flavor to your life.
Introducing the Zax Pack. Serve with chicken fingers, sides, Texas toast, and iced tea. Pick one up for dinner or your next event. Friends, family, flavor. Zaxby's. Indescribably good.
The Weekly Sting is brought to you by Zaxby's on 221 in Forest, Virginia. Stop by for the best chicken in town from the official chicken of Lynchburg Sports. Welcome back, everyone, to the Weekly Sting here at Turner Gymnasium. Joe Hutchler getting ready for our third guest. But before we get there, let's talk about the Hornet Trivia answer. We asked you in the last segment, talking about basketball, the last time Shenandoah men's basketball defeated Lynchburg was in 95-96. Who led LC in scoring that season? Mr. Otis Tucker III. He's second all-time on the scoring list as well, with just under 1,800 points in his 4-year career. Now, without further ado, in the last segment of our show, we'll bring in Daniel Rowe, who works for us here at LHSN. And Danny, we're going to talk about basketball, which is a sport that you're obviously familiar with, in more ways than one. I do want to talk about the men's game last night with Shenandoah, and there was this sense throughout the entire game, and Coach Scott even echoed that at the end of the game, that they weren't playing their style of basketball, and it actually came from maybe a bad practice the night before. When you look at it from the player standpoint, is there validity? Is there a lot of that can be brought, people believe what he said, and that a bad practice can lead to bad play the very next day?
I definitely think so. I mean, I've been in those same practices. I've been in that locker room. And so I have that experience of being in those same shoes and knowing what translates week by week. And when you have bad practices, I mean, it ends up showing on the floor. Coach gave them a little warning at the end of practice the other night, and still it seemed like they just weren't ready to go yesterday. So again, as Jay was talking about, it's early in the season, and that's something that they can take with them going forward. But you have to be able to learn from opportunities like this.
You and I talked about ironically before yesterday's game, talked about the Bridgewater loss last year in the same time frame as well, around Thanksgiving. You mentioned the practice the next day that was a turning point for you guys. Walk me through what happened at the practice, because it wasn't necessarily an X's and O's practice.
No, it wasn't. I mean, the biggest problem we had in that Bridgewater game was we just missed the effort on little plays that we should have taken care of. So really that practice was all just competition. It was small-sided stuff. It was 5-on-5 stuff where Coach essentially just put the ball out on the floor and said, all right, let's play. Who's gonna start playing for us? And we were grinding all practice long and every practice after that, really. So I think it definitely set the tone for us going forward for the rest of the season.
We'll see what happens tomorrow. They're off today in terms of practice, so we'll see what kind of practice they have tomorrow. A whole day for Coach Scott to think about things. It could be interesting. I do want to mention some of the things that happened throughout the game themselves. Obviously, you weren't on the call, but you at least go back and look at things. This is a team that, in the beginning of the year, has been hot from beyond the arc. There's that old adage of you live by it, you die by it. And I think Lynchburg kind of got in that die by it stage where they didn't shoot very well. But more importantly, we mentioned on the broadcast, they didn't go to the free throw line enough. And then when they got there, they didn't hit them. From a player standpoint, is that an area of the game that you just have to know yourself that's an important part of it? Or is it harped on in practice that, guys, we've got to hit our free throws?
I think it's both. I mean, they both realize, both coaches and players, that they need to make free throws. And that's just a matter of getting in the gym, building that confidence of just putting up shots so that once you get it on the floor in game time, you're ready to go. And free throws are definitely killing this team so far. They're shooting, I think, 55% from the stripe this year, and that's definitely something that they're going to have to turn up, especially when we're playing ODAC games like they played last night. Right. Those are tight games. Oftentimes, they're only decided by 5 or less points, and when 5 free throws are missed, that can make a big difference in the game.
Oh, yeah. They hit 4 or 5 last night. It's a different ballgame, and everybody's maybe not happy 100% because they didn't play very well, but at least we got the win. But nevertheless, they've got a long time to get ready for Case Western Reserve on next Saturday. We've got a few minutes left here, and I want to kind of give people a preview of something that we've been working on for a while. It's taken a while for us to get to it, but starting in a couple weeks, we're going to have a weekly show on our SoundCloud page, so LHSN Radio. It's going to be called Outside Lakeside, where Danny and I talk about things not related to Lynchburg College, just to give more of a narrative and even give our students an opportunity to chime in as well for about 2 months before we get started in the spring season. And to give them an idea of what it might be like, I want us to talk about something in terms of ESPN. We all know ESPN. We all look up to ESPN. People say, oh, you're going to be on ESPN one day when they talk about the progress that we're making here at LHSN. They've had some issues with subscribers lately. In the last 2 months, they've lost 1.17 million subscribers to their channel, not to their magazine or to their online presence. When you look at it from like a consumer, why do you think they're losing so many people that don't want to have ESPN on their channels list on their television?
Well, it's definitely safe to say I don't think there's one particular answer to the question. I think there's a whole lot of other things that are going on. Obviously, we've heard the talk about it being a political year, so a lot of people are kind of straying away from sports, and the Clintons and Trumps are making a lot of the news. So I think that has part to do with it. Another part is consumers are just consuming differently. Cable and typical networks that you get via satellite aren't something that you usually do. A lot of that is switching mobile, and so people want to be able to get that service individually or aren't interested in it overall. As cable packages, ESPN typically is the reason why most cable packages are still around, is because ESPN, you can't get individually, and it's just part of that entire package. So I think that's part of it as well, and also there's a network that's given them some trouble as well. It's really started to pick up steam over the last year or so with Fox Sports.
Yeah, Fox Sports 1, certainly one that's coming on strong in terms of their radio presence as well. But oddly enough, they're not talking about their subscribers. They're really wanting to push that, hey, ESPN's not doing so hot, so let's talk about that. You mentioned two things that segue really well to our next part. We're also going to have a segment in there called Politipop. And Politipop is a mix of pop culture and politics. And just want to go over a couple stories. You mentioned the mobile piece of that ESPN deal. Something really cool for people who like to binge watch Netflix. Netflix announced today that they'll add offline viewing for smartphones and tablets. Not all programming, you'll have to find a download section, but that way if you don't have internet connection, you can still watch your favorite shows. So good luck in class trying to make sure you don't watch your favorite shows.
Yeah, that Netflix stuff going the way of kind of like the Spotify, where you can listen to it online, but then you can also kind of download the songs and have them at your pleasure to listen or watch to whenever.
Makes it even more dangerous. Also in political news, Vladimir Putin presented Steven Seagal, the movie actor, with a Russian passport, saying that's a symbol of the good relations between Washington and Moscow. I don't know how big of a symbol it is, but apparently electing Trump gets Steven Seagal a passport.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know there's a lot of weird stuff going on behind the scenes with the Russians.
A whole lot of weird stuff. And the last thing, really cool thing here, we don't promote drinking beer, but if you want to at least buy a case of Bud Light between now and January 13th, you have a really good chance at some Super Bowl tickets, not just for this year, for 5 decades. 37,000 gold cans will be sold across the country from this week through January 13th by Bud Light. One of those 37,000 gold cans will earn you Super Bowl tickets for 50 years. So you maybe want to buy a little bit more than usual, or maybe be selective with where you go and try to get that gold can. But interesting marketing for sure.
Yeah, and Bud Light is really killing it. I mean, they did the NFL teams on their cans, and that really sold well, and backing it up and following it up with this golden can thing. It's pretty cool.
Anheuser-Busch is all about the NFL, for sure. Well, that's a little bit of a preview. We'll talk more about it in a couple weeks. We appreciate you guys tuning in this week to the Weekly Sting. Of course, we'll be on the air for the coming weeks for women's basketball, and then we'll be actually traveling with men's basketball and women's basketball as well for their Christmas tournament. So stay tuned to Lynchburg Sports for all that information as well. Danny, thanks for coming on the show, buddy.
Always a pleasure.
Appreciate it. And we'll see you guys next week on lynchburgsports.com here on the Weekly Sting. I'm Joe Hutzler. The Hive has spoken, and we are one nation.